I can't believe you've done this. You shared a private conversation that we had with your father and the district attorney.
Take it easy, fellas.
Respectfully, mind your own business,
You're making this
Danny.
a bigger deal than you have to.
You have totally betrayed my trust.
I betrayed you.
Yeah, you're a traitor.
Okay, you know what? This is ridiculous. You have once again landed yourself in the middle of a giant mess that you created.
What? I created this?
Welcome, my dear listeners. Stay with me to get the spoilers first. And subscribe to the channel. Let's find out what's going to happen on The Young and the Restless.
Why? Because I wouldn't cave to Victor?
You know why.
Why don't you just spell everything out to the district attorney sitting right there? Seriously, she would like nothing more than to see me rot in prison for the rest of my life.
This doesn't have anything to do with Christine.
The hell
or
it doesn't.
Dad,
The
or
hell
me,
it
or
doesn't.
anyone else. This is all on you.
It kills me to my core to know that my kids have chosen Victor Newman over me. I cannot believe that you have done that to me. You want to see me go to prison, don't you?
Noah recovers his memory. The accident turns out to point straight at Holden. Noah Newman's crash remains one of the biggest mysteries surrounding The Young and the Restless storyline, and the newest spoiler trail makes it clear the accident wasn't just a simple hit and run. Current recap coverage says the crash Noah was involved in was treated as a possible hit and run, that a detective was brought in, and that Nick and Sharon were left to face every parent's worst nightmare as Noah battled for his life in the hospital. The same spoiler cycle suggests Nick will continue to dig into what really happened, while Sharon and Nick continue to push for answers as they try to figure out who ran Noah off the road. Meanwhile, the LA storyline is ratcheting up the danger for Claire, Holden, and Sienna. Current spoiler coverage teases that Holden and Claire are growing closer, that Sienna Bacall will debut in Los Angeles and has a connection to Holden, and that Claire may become even more smitten with Holden as the days go by. Those same spoilers also note that there's a major mystery surrounding Noah's accident, so the crash is a pressure point for several storylines at once, not a single isolated medical emergency. So in this story told in spoiler style, the real shock is not that Noah wakes up, but that he remembers. The memory returns first in pieces. The headlights flash. The rubber smell. That awful crash of metal and glass. Then the image that counts. Another vehicle not just swerving past him but with sufficient intent to make the wreck feel deliberate. Noah had been in and out of consciousness, his brain fighting the effects of the crash, but as the memory surfaced he knew the accident was never random. Someone chose. Someone was moving out. And the person is no stranger. Fans are buzzing about the version where Noah's recovering memory points to Holden Novak as the person who caused the shocking accident. This theory factors into the structure of the LA material because Holden is already so deeply connected to the night Noah was hurt, and Sienna's arrival in LA makes the whole thing feel more personal and more tangled. The spoiler coverage says Holden is in Claire's orbit and that Sienna has a connection to Holden from his past, which adds a built-in web of secrets to the crash. But when Noah remembers the car, the silhouette, or the voice associated with that moment, the entire mystery ceases to feel like an accident and begins to feel like a cover-up ready to fall apart. And that is what makes the hospital room a battlefield. Sharon has been trying her best to hold it together sitting at Noah's bedside, and the recap says a detective even came in to tell her a witness suggested another vehicle may have run Noah off the road. So when Noah finally wakes up, fragments of memory returning, Sharon is the first person he reaches for, and the first person to understand that an accident is no longer the right word. One recovered memory shifts the story from medical survival to moral responsibility. Nick is more volatile in his response, because he's been the investigator in the family. Spoilers hint that Nick keeps searching for answers about Noah's crash, and tomorrow's previews note that he wants the truth about what happened in Los Angeles. In this version of the story, Nick has been battling through grief, fear, and anger, trying to determine if someone did this to his son on purpose. When Noah finally remembers and points to Holden, Nick understands the nightmare is not just that Noah was hurt. It is that the person on whom the whole LA story has been turning may have been the cause of it. The thing that makes the accusation against Holden so devastating is that the current spoilers have already made him the emotional bridge between several story threads. He's with Claire in LA, he has a connection to Sienna, and Claire is becoming more and more attracted to him. Which means the news that Holden caused Noah's accident is not just a bombshell crime. It would rip into the Newman family's trust, and collapse the romantic storyline around Claire. If Noah remembers Holden's involvement, Claire's growing attraction will immediately be a crisis, not a choice. That's why the memory return has to happen the way soap stories always do, at the worst possible time. In this spoiler version, Noah is weak and confused and still recovering when the memory returns, but the emotional details are suddenly crystal clear. He remembers the other car far too well. He remembers how it cut across, how it hemmed him in, how it was as if he were being chased, not simply pushed off the road. Already, the show has set the crash up as a hit and run, bolstering the idea that the recovered memory of Noah is the missing piece in an otherwise half-solved case. The story also works because it gives Sharon and Nick a reason to rehash their trauma with Cassie. The spoiler article says Noah's life-or-death accident is already making the family fear the same kind of pain they experienced with Cassie. So when Noah wakes and recalls the culprit, it is not just a police matter. It becomes a family trauma echoing through the years. For Sharon especially, the experience makes her relive the terror of sitting beside a child in a hospital bed and wondering if the worst happened because someone chose violence. It's that emotional overlap that makes the spoiler story land so hard. In the fan version of events, Holden doesn't look like a cartoon villain at first. And that's what makes the reveal more interesting. He's been flirting with Claire, reuniting in LA, and in the same emotional space as Sienna. But as Noah's memory returns, a darker pattern begins to take shape. Holden's presence in LA, Sienna's connection to him, Claire's growing trust, Noah's accident, all of it starts to fall into place like the pieces of a hidden map. The reveal would then be less of a random twist and more of the moment where the audience realizes the entire LA storyline has been quietly leading up to this shock. That's also why the detective's role is so important. The recap already indicates the detective told Sharon and Nick that a witness said another vehicle may have run Noah off the road and kept going. Which means the investigation has already moved away from bad luck to someone out there knows more than they're telling. In a story like this, it's Noah's recovery of memory that transforms a police theory into a family accusation. This is when the witness statement stops being background noise and becomes the cold fact everyone has been waiting to hear. Claire would face swift consequences. The current spoilers say that Claire will fall for Holden while in Los Angeles. But if Noah remembers that Holden was the one who caused the crash, then the emotional direction completely changes. Suddenly Claire is not only choosing between old feelings and new ones, but whether she can trust a man connected to a life-threatening secret. That would also put her at odds with Kyle, whose LA crash into her getaway already made clear he's trying to keep a foot in her world. Then the accident mystery would be the thing that closes one romantic door and opens another wide. The revelation would be another type of pain for Nick. He's already dealing with the fallout of Victor pressuring him about his drug addiction, and the spoilers say Victor will put him in a corner and make him admit. This means Nick is fighting two battles at the same time. His son's accident and his own self-destruction. If Noah does remember Holden as the perpetrator, then Nick's rage will have nowhere to go but right at the man who hurt his kid. That's the kind of revelation that can turn a father's grief into a full-blown war in soap terms. Sharon's part, however, is the emotional center of the entire story. She is the first to hear the detective's warning, the first to sit with Noah as he is bandaged and vulnerable, and the first to realize that the family's nightmare may indeed have a face. And if Noah recovers his memory and recognizes Holden, it's Sharon who has to take the full horror. She's already had her years of Newman trauma. This would be another case of a child nearly being lost because someone close to him chose betrayal over honesty. The best thing about the spoiler-style version is that it preserves the mystery while simultaneously revealing the culprit. Noah's recovery of memory does more than just reveal who was behind the shocking accident. It changes the story from who did it to why. Holden, why was he there? Why did he continue? Was he protecting himself? Was he protecting Claire? Or was he hiding something even more dangerous with Sienna at its core? The current spoiler coverage doesn't answer that, but it does give us enough to know the accident is contained within a far larger web of LA secrets. That is why it is such a compelling story even when the memory does come back. So here's the spoiler story. Noah wakes up, the memory returns, and the car that hit him is no longer just a mystery in a detective's notebook. It is the name of Holden Novak, who was directly involved in the shocking accident that nearly killed Noah and tore Sharon and Nick apart. The crash was never merely a wreck. A secret to remember. And when Noah's reminded, you can't put that truth back in the dark. Noah brought back from the dead. Is it reality or a dream? The most recent Young and the Restless spoilers don't directly say that Noah died and came back from the grave. What it does confirm is that Noah is waking up from the aftermath of his accident, that the family's fear has been enormous, and that the show is treating his return as a major emotional event. Recent spoiler coverage suggests that Noah Newman's coma awakening will kick off the month of November, and another spoiler article indicates Noah wakes up, while Sharon faces an alarming ordeal. That's why the story feels so surreal. The return is real, but it hits like a dream because everyone around him has been so long bracing for the worst. In this spoiler version of events, Noah's first moments back are so confusing he himself can't tell if he's awake, dreaming or stuck in some in-between place. He comes back slowly with flashes of pain, light and voices. There's Sharon, there's Nick in the rooms too bright and too sharp and too unreal. The accident that landed him there has already been spun as a possible hit and run, with a detective revealing a witness thought another vehicle might have forced Noah off the road. Noah opens his eyes again and no one in the room feels like they are in a simple hospital recovery scene. It's like the start of a mystery that has finally chosen to talk. Is it reality or a dream? Question works so well because the show has been building up Noah's story with memory, confusion and missing pieces. The spoiler sneak peek said Noah's memory returns and the truth is worse than the scars, and that the writers are obviously using his awakening as a doorway to a larger revelation. In this version of the story, Noah does not return completely coherent. He is returning in fragments, and the fragments matter because they are in the shape of what really happened to him. One recollection. A face. One auto. One wrong turn. The hospital bed is where the truth begins to crawl back into the light. That's what gives Sharon's reaction such power. And she already lived through the terror of not knowing if her son would live, and the recaps show her and Nick spending night after night in the hospital as detectives began treating the crash like a crime scene. So when Noah suddenly wakes up, Sharon's first reaction is not triumph. It is unbelief. She almost looks like she's afraid to breathe too hard, or the moment will disappear. That's the emotional heart of the entire sequence. A mother who has been preparing herself for loss now has to decide if what she sees is a miracle or the cruelest trick of the brain. But Nick's reaction is different. He's been searching for answers since the accident. According to the spoiler trail, Nick has been on a mission to get to the bottom of Noah's crash, and he's been managing the fallout like a father with a purpose. Nick is relieved when Noah returns, but immediately on guard. He knows that recovery does not erase the crime. Nick wants anything Noah remembers that is useful. If Noah remembers a face, Nick wants the name. If Noah remembers the car, Nick wants the plate, the color, the angle, the truth. In other words, the dream is over when Nick realizes his son might be able to tell him who tried to kill him. The reason the story continues to teeter on a dreamlike quality is because people around Noah are already functioning in a half-real world. Claire, Sienna and Holden are all caught up in the Los Angeles storyline, and the spoilers say Holden is getting back together with Claire and Sienna is moving to LA and clearly has a history with him. Meanwhile, other spoilers say Claire is falling for Holden, and Holden is not as innocent as he appears. This creates an atmosphere of surrounding where Noah's accident isn't merely a medical event. It's a pressure point where every secret in Los Angeles is tied to every fear back in Genoa City. This is why the phrase "returned from the dead" has such punch. The current spoiler record doesn't literally say so, but it gets across how Noah feels when he wakes up and everyone's had to consider the worst possible scenario. Soap Hub's later coverage says Noah's memory comes back, and that the truth is worse than the scars, which suggests the show is using his recovery as a twist engine. This version of the story doesn't give closure with Noah's eyes opening. And here begins the next, darker layer. What if his mind remembers not only the accident but the name of the man who caused it? And the spoiler landscape makes that possibility even more perilous because the current material keeps pointing toward Holden. Holden and Claire talk things through in the October coverage, and later spoiler updates suggest Holden keeps secrets for Audra, and Noah and Sienna might be walking into a trap. Soap Opera News and Soap Hub both describe Holden as a man with a hidden side and a history that is still unfolding, making him a plausible candidate for somebody whose connection to Noah's crash is much uglier than it first looked. If Noah wakes up and connects the dots back to Holden's involvement, then the dreamlike return becomes a nightmare with a name attached. The sting in this story is the possibility that Holden was responsible for the accident. Holden is no longer a background character in the current YNR material. His orbit is Claire's orbit. He has secrets. He is part of the bigger LA knot with Sienna, Audra and Noah. If Noah wakes up and remembers that it was Holden who caused the crash, then the entire romantic shape of the storyline shifts. Claire's attraction to Holden ceases to feel like a spicy side plot and begins to feel like a relationship built beside a very dark secret. Soaps love that kind of reveal because it makes romance dangerous in a single conversation. The twist is especially painful because Noah's own memory is not a pristine thing. The spoiler reports say he wakes up then remembers more later on. So his first conversation back will likely be foggy and confused. He might ask what had happened. He might say he saw a car. He might remember a face but not a name. He might get the full picture only when a second wave of memory hits him like a punch. That structure works perfectly for a soap, because it gives the audience the option to question whether the returned from the dead moment is a clean revival or a false start, and then slowly turns it into a confession scene where the truth is finally impossible to hide. That's why Sharon's fear feels so much more powerful than relief. But she is not just waiting for Noah to wake up. She's waiting for the truth to decide if her son's survival is going to bring peace or blow up the family's LA story. The spoiler coverage says that Sharon and Nick are worried about Noah's accident, and other articles make it clear that the accident may not have been an accident at all. And so when Noah begins to remember, Sharon is faced with a terrible possibility. Her son didn't just survive a wreck. He survived one assault. And if he can name the man who did it, then the man he names could wreck other lives as well. The link to Sienna makes the whole scene even more complicated. Current spoilers have Sienna already linked to Holden and possibly tied into the bigger mystery behind Noah's accident. Later coverage also says Sienna could be covering her tracks with the police. Which means Noah's return isn't just one bad apple or one car. It's a web of people who may have been trying to protect themselves, hide the truth or manipulate what really happened on that road that night. If Noah wakes and the first thing he says is about Holden or Sienna or both, then everyone in that circle has to decide how much of the story they are still willing to tell. The voices around him seem muffled and distant, and in a dramatic version of the scene, Noah might even think that he is dreaming at first. That's exactly the sort of disorienting soap imagery that would make the returned from the dead idea hit hard. One moment he is lost in pain and memory, the next he is hearing Sharon's voice, Nick's voice and the frantic relief in the room. Then reality hits. He is alive, the family is there, and the mystery is still there. The moment is so charged with emotion it can feel unreal even as it's happening. That's the tension the show's been building to all this time. The deeper question then is not if Noah's return is a dream. It's whether the truth that returns with him is too much for the family to handle all at once. Soap Hub's Memory Returns tease says the truth is worse than the scars, and that's the clue this storyline is going to bite hard. Noah's awakening is an opening. On one side is survive. On the other is the identity of the person who was behind the shocking crash. If that person is Holden, then Claire's romance, Sienna's secrets and the entire Los Angeles story suddenly collapse under the weight of what Noah remembers. So the answer to the question in the title is both yes and no. Noah's return is real, but it feels like a dream because the show has trapped it in fear, trauma and memory loss. He ain't normal back. He's back to that moment when the truth can finally hurt. That is why Sharon, Nick and the rest of the family are so devastated, and why the audience is meant to continue questioning if what they are witnessing is real. In Genoa City there's never just a simple recovery. It's the point where the next secret starts to breathe again. And this is where the story stops being about an accident, and starts being about accountability. Because if Noah really remembers, and if that memory points straight at Holden, then this isn't just a mystery solved, it's a life about to be shattered. Here's the part that hits hardest. This doesn't feel like a random act anymore. It feels intentional, and once intention enters the picture, forgiveness gets a lot harder. And honestly, I don't think this ends quietly. I think this explodes. Because if Nick hears that name, Holden, there's no way he stays calm. There's no way this stays legal. It turns personal in seconds. And what about Claire? What happens when attraction turns into suspicion? When the man she's opening her heart to becomes the man who almost destroyed someone else's life? That's the kind of twist that doesn't just break trust, it rewrites it. But here's the deeper question. What if Holden didn't act alone? What if this accident is just one piece of something much bigger? Something Sienna is still hiding? Because let's be real, in this kind of story, the first truth is never the final truth. So now I'm wondering, Is Noah ready for what remembering really means? Not just the pain, but the consequences. And are you ready to see who Holden really is when the truth fully comes out? Because if this memory keeps unfolding, the next name Noah says might change everything. Stick with this one, because something tells me the worst part of this story hasn't even been remembered yet.